welcome. Tonight we're going to explore another service available here at the center of the universe. It always amazes me, from the health care to the services such as banking that are available right at our fingertips that so many people don't know, and what our local institutions have put together to help our residents. So let's start with an introduction.
Okay. My name is Kristen Cavallo. I am the president and CEO of Milford National Bank and Trust Company.
And the first thing is hats off for all your bank under your leadership does for the local community.
Oh, thank you, Al.
It's always wonderful when you look at, all the kids groups, all the local groups that are all starving for money.
Yeah. We try to obviously give back. The bank has been an important member of the community for many, many years, more than 150 years. And we give back in the form of donations, time, scholarships. So we try to do our part. We try to do a lot with, needy families, particularly over the holiday season. So we do, coat drives and donate money and baskets for, Thanksgiving and all those types of things. And we're very proud of that.
Well, the baskets for Thanksgiving was always something I thought was wonderful.
Yeah, it's really,
because
absolutely.
I remember when my daughter, biggest thief, my little one used to steal change all year and hide it so that when Thanksgiving came, she could go to the church group and buy a meal. Nice. And her idea was, she says, we're so lucky that we have our meal in our home. Yeah. I'd rather do that than buy somebody dinner. Yeah. Let them have a traditional turkey, and of course, by the time she was done, it was dinner, and then tomorrow's breakfast.
I'm sure. She sounds very frugal. Oh, that's good.
Well,
she would do well in our business.
Yeah, you would love it, because her money was to save. Our money was to spend. So.
Of course.
Before we get going on the whole idea of protecting our identity,
yes,
tell me about the bank. You're leading a wonderful institution.
Thank you.
To our 6 viewers, here's your chance to give a commercial.
Thank you, and of course I get to do fun things like be invited here to speak with you on your show. Milford National Bank is a locally owned, community-based financial institution. We have 3 branches in Milford and surrounding communities. We have 16 communities, including Milford, in which we serve, very close to home. We have 75 employees. Most of whom live in work in the area. We have a wealth management department, which has been very important to the bank for a long time, and we do investing, insurance, and those types of things as well. We're having a great year, great few years, despite the challenges. We have lots of challenges in our business, as does everyone, but lots of challenges with regard to the economy and just things that are happening around the globe. Certainly an election year, all of those factors impact all of us, including the bank. But yeah, things at the bank are great. We're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the years.
Yeah, I met with a couple of people from your wealth management group.
You did?
We did.
Aren't they fabulous?
They are, and I was so impressed that we're going to have them do a couple shows.
Great.
Everything from estate planning and all.
Yes.
Because again, you're used to expecting services like that from a city bank. When we lived in D.C., the large banks down there had a whole wealth management arm.
Yes.
And they would take care of you. And then you get back to Milford and you never think you can get the same services.
Well, it's interesting. There's a lot of financial institutions that don't have a wealth management component, and we do. And we've seen a lot of long-standing folks that we've been able to assist with their estate plan, with their retirement planning, lots of different products. There's so many, certainly investing, if you're so inclined to do that. People get a little nervous with the economy and the market conditions, but now is actually a really good time to invest because there's tremendous opportunities to do so.
Well, I've learned I have a foolproof way of affecting the value of my portfolio. I get involved, it goes down.
That happens to a lot of people now, Al. But we could help you, I'm sure.
I've learned that there are professional investment managers that are assigned to you, and that's all they do. And the best thing I do is just stay out of Kevin's way. He's been doing it at least 30 years for me.
Yes.
And I meet with him once a year because he's out in Pittsburgh, and Tony and crew have convinced me I ought to start looking locally. So
Well, it's interesting because it's important to know what you don't know, particularly in our business. and you know, we just have professionals that are fabulous, and we do a lot with a lot of local. Like we've had a long-standing relationship with the Milford Regional Medical Center. We're proud to be associated with our friends there, and we continue to help them in terms of moving that company forward. And I think they're the only company on the planet that is more regulated than the bank is. So I kind of take a minute and say that.
Dealing with
Maybe
the
not,
FDA,
right? FDA,
I was
that's
going to
true.
say,
Yep,
I mean,
yep,
I'm
FDA
right
as
up there
well.
with you.
Yeah. Federal government.
The federal government
right?
in general, but yeah, when you look at between the FDIC, the FDA,
yeah.
the SEC, I sit there and say, I don't know which
Are you
ones
kidding?
are more
I know.
bureaucratic.
I know, it's interesting. And our business has evolved to that. And it's been interesting. I've never worked outside of banking.
Is that right?
So yes, I was a teller when I was 15, many moons ago. Things have changed. Since 9/11, a lot has changed our business. And I am, I guess, can I say on air how old I am? Is that okay?
It's up to
I
you.
don't want to violate anything.
No, you
I
don't violate anything.
I'm 51, so.
You're still a youngster.
I know, right? Everyone says that. I remember when I was 51 many moons ago.
I don't know if
I'm
I
not saying you would
remember.
say
I'm
that,
60.
but are you?
So,
Oh, geez, you're a youngster too, right?
but you know, it's amazing because when I think of my mom and dad, they believed that they could go down to Main Street, and in the bank there was that big safe, and there was a little box with his name on it.
Yeah.
And all his $1 bills were sitting there in that
Waiting
box.
for them to come and
In
withdraw
case
their
they
money.
need it,
That's
they
right.
just walk
That's
in
right.
and they'd open the box.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Sometimes I forget that there's actually cash in the bank, and everyone is interested in the vault. So we have events with the Boys and the Girl Scouts, and they come in and they say, "Gee, can we see the vault?" Because it's very cool and there's money in there. And we've been identified by a number of the federal bank regulators as a well-managed bank. So it's almost good. Well, it's good news and bad news from my perspective. Because we've been identified as a well-managed bank, we're very proud of that. We also are identified as a well-managed bank, so that means they come when the feds
Yeah, the
come.
eyes are all on you.
And they bring trainees, and they say, can you show the trainees the vault? And everybody wants to see the money and what's happening in the vault. So it's a popular
You know,
place.
I guess the vault never, unless it's Fort Knox,
I know.
that vault would impress me.
Yes, yes.
But when you think of today, I mean, it's not like the majority of your assets are tied up in physical currency sitting there.
I know. Well, the branch side of things has evolved, and the technology has had a profound impact on all of us, certainly. But within the branch, there's a lot of really cool things happening, like a lot of the money is counted and recycled using equipment. So we have cash counting machines. So if you get change, it's counted by the machine, so their margin for error is lower because it's all done electronically. We have fingerprinting technology, so we could take your fingerprint and make sure that you are who you say you are in terms of identity as well. So there's lots of things that are a little bit different than, you know, there's pads that you sign as opposed to signing paper, or having adding machines with you know,
The tape.
the tape. I used one of those when I first started in the branch. I'm like, what do you mean we don't have those tapes anymore? Where are they? We have a few kicking around at the bank. Not so much that anybody uses.
But I mean,
because
you
of
go
the
in and you see the
computers.
teller count money 3 times or something. It's like,
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
amazing.
A lot of checks and balances, dual control everywhere. It's important. And,
But you know, as a small bank,
Mhm.
what is the biggest challenge you have?
We have many. I know we talked a little bit about the regulatory piece. The economy is a challenge just because things are so uncertain. There's so much uncertainty, so many just outlier things that are happening both domestically and abroad. It's unbelievable. And the technology side, in terms of cybersecurity and those types of challenges, protecting our identity, I know we talked a little bit about that in terms of topics, that is a big challenge for all financial institutions, to make sure that your identity is safe and no one has the ability to take your information and do bad things with it. There's a lot of focus on hacking into computers now, so you have to make sure that your information is guarded, because if there's a problem, then there's a problem.
But
So,
even when you take precautions,
yeah.
I've learned once that I was at risk. I got a call on my credit card saying that I was part of a pool that was hacked.
Yes.
And God bless Citibank, they just cut me off. Done, your credit card's now canceled.
That's wise. That's wise.
It's wise, but
Absolutely.
the
A pain,
the
nonetheless.
second
yeah.
time,
Yeah.
it was amazing. I was sitting in Krasnodar, southern Russia. I checked out of my hotel, used my credit card, no problem. Got in the taxi, go to pay the taxi, credit card won't work. Somebody had hacked and charged some money to the Sears account using my credit card. So they called my darling bride. She said, no, I know he's not buying from Sears in Chicago or wherever it was, because he's in Russia. Oh, okay, no problem, we'll just cut the card. In that 10 minutes, all of a sudden I can't pay my taxi bill.
Absolutely, no question about it. Particularly international transactions. Most of the financial institutions, particularly the city or the bigger banks, have fraud prevention software embedded in their system, so those parameters are defined. So if you typically don't travel to Russia and you don't tell them
you got to call them.
You have to call them and be proactive in terms of managing this whole cyber side of the business. You have to tell them that's what you're going to do. Your credit card company, call them up and say, I've been a longstanding customer. Would you please just put a note on my card that I am traveling to Russia, and these are the dates in which I'm traveling, so that they know, because that outlier transaction will trigger the fraud prevention software.
Well, it triggered it because I stopped in Paris.
Yeah.
So they're seeing France. They saw New York, France, and then Russia, and all the bells went off.
So they think someone has Al's credit card and they're spending.
And I called. I said, "Now wait a minute." So I'm trying to call. It's 2 in the morning. It was 12:30 in the morning. By the time it was done, it was 1:30. I'm trying to call back to New York, saying, "Guys, open my credit card. I want to be able to use it." And once they canceled it, they said, "It's dead."
Because really, anyone could be calling. It's hard to identify you by phone, particularly if you have multiple transactions over a short period of time, because that's when someone has your credit card. They're going to run that up as quickly as possible before they've been identified or before your provider has an opportunity to shut the card off.
So now, what is the biggest challenge to protecting my identity?
Just making sure there's no compromises in the system from the bank side. So we need to make sure everything is safe and everything is secure. You need to really pay attention to your information. So if you get not directed at you, Al, but just everyone in general, if you get your statement, look at it. If you have online banking or online access to your accounts, pay attention. Look at your transactions. If something doesn't look right, I know we talked a little bit off air about multiple small transactions which precede a large transaction. Pay attention, and if those small transactions are not yours or your family members, make sure you get in touch with your
Well, that happened to me 3 years ago in iTunes.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 daughters who still use my credit card, so I looked at it.
And how old are they again?
Yeah, 25 and 29.
Am I allowed to ask questions?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
It was funny because, as I said before, I did ask my daughter, is it normal? And she said, oh, yeah, Dad, it's very normal. I said, okay, I just want to make sure that it's still normal that you use my credit card. But it was interesting because it was like a $6 iTunes, then 3 $6 iTunes. Yeah. And within a day, the second day was $650 worth of iTunes.
Yeah. So it's the test, and then the big purchase. And had the card not been shut off because it had been identified as being compromised, there would have been a larger charge typically after the $650.
No, is that right?
Usually, yeah. Usually they accelerate.
They just
and escalate, yeah. Yep.
So now, I didn't have to pay anything, except a lot of agita. I mean, you think of it because you got all the. I think the biggest issue was that I've got a dozen different direct payment. The newspaper, 3 newspapers coming to the house.
I know.
All the water, all these places.
I know.
Now you got to call them all.
You do. It's a pain, but be patient. It makes sense to make,
Well, I now have a list. So whenever my credit card gets, compromised, I can go down the list and call and change over to the new credit card.
And it happens more often now than ever with folks trying to, particularly with the bigger companies, because if a hacker tries to get in, they do it, they try to get as much bang for their buck. So they get into the bigger pools of information, the likes of, Citi, Wells, B of A, and their identity theft and fraud prevention software is tremendous in terms of expense and very sophisticated, actually. So but just be patient, pay attention.
Now, if I'm a hacker,
yes,
and I look at bank in Milford, B of A. Maybe it's ill-founded prejudice, but I'm going to think it's going to be harder because B of A is going to have an army. You know, we're proud to have 75 people working in the bank.
Yes, yes.
They probably have 75 people working in the department
Yeah.
to protect online banking.
That's probably true. But it's a function of the numbers. There's also greater numbers, so there's greater places to have a
sneak in.
compromise and to sneak in. So, and the people that are sophisticated, which is really happening all over the globe. So there's folks, all kinds of compromises from everywhere. They're going to focus on the B of A because even though you might think, or the perception is that the barriers are bigger to get in, that's really not the case because there's only so many companies that provide yeah, so the hackers kind of identify those bigger
So
companies.
it's kind of like the
to
Great
get
Wall
in.
of China. I'll just keep going down till I find one porous area.
That's right. That's right.
So
Exactly.
you have less to guard.
Yeah.
Than
I must say we haven't had, and I almost don't want to say
Yes.
that because I don't want any
You don't want to get a
trouble,
call
you know?
tomorrow morning.
Hey, Kristen, thanks for the cable show, but you know, you and I were talking about important matters and it created a problem. But you really, really have to take responsibility for your own information. And the hacker's objective is to get your credit card information, but also to get your personal information as well. Your social security number, your, if there's your codes, you have to make sure you change them all the time. You have to make sure it's not something easy.
We don't have to
that
worry.
kind
You
of
have
thing.
silly bank software. After a while, just says no.
That's right.
And the bank people now have gotten smart because it used to be it's now time to give a new password.
Yes.
You can't use any of the last 10. Okay, cat 1, cat 2, I'll change it cat 3. You know, and I just keep cat 4, cat 5, cat 9, cat 10, great, I'm back to cat 1.
Yeah.
No, because
No,
then
no.
it says you can't have used that password within a year.
I know.
So it's like, I
It's
can't
so
even
true.
get sneaky to get around it anymore.
And it's a challenge because you have so many passwords for so many things. And you're not supposed to write them down. That's a
No.
bad idea because you don't want to compromise anything. But with everyone using, particularly online shopping, using your credit card and your debit card everywhere for lots of different things, you really have to be aware of your statement and making sure that your information the information that's on your statement is in fact yours. And if you get a call from your credit card company, they're not going to ask you information that is to confirm your social security number, for example. So if some random person calls you and says they have your account number, and oh, by the way, could you confirm the rest of this information, don't
No.
give it to them because that is not
Well,
what
you
your
know,
provider is going to ask
I've
you.
fallen into a pattern that if I get an email, first thing I look is, does it say at Citibank? Because I'll get this thing, it looks perfectly
Yes.
like my Citibank account. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or my Milford account. But then I noticed that the convention for the email,
Yes.
there's a G in front of it. Right away.
Strange.
Right
That's
away,
right.
that's,
That's right.
you know, the antenna go up.
That's right.
But I've gotten to a pattern where that's fine. If it's fraud prevention, even if they call me, I hang up, I look at the back of my card, and I call the number on the card.
It's very prudent. No
Because then I
question.
feel
Absolutely.
safe
Absolutely.
that I'm reaching the bank. I'm
Absolutely.
reaching, you know, the credit card company.
Absolutely. No question.
Versus when they give me a number.
Well, that's the thing, and also when an email comes to you, and that's back to your point, Al, about does it make sense for the hackers to try to get into a bigger base? It does, because there's a bigger base. So the percentage, a function of the numbers, the more people they can reach out to in terms of getting your information, the better inroads they get in terms of perpetuating fraud. So.
And
that's
I mean,
the-
you think about how many
challenge.
times I've won $25 million in Nigeria. I mean,
If it sounds too good to be true,
It
it
is.
is.
you know, you're sitting there saying, you know,
Absolutely.
I have 25 million. I just need an American bank account to deposit in it.
I know.
Please just give me your bank
Unlikely.
account and your password, and I will deposit 20 million to you.
I know. I know.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
know. And you know what's interesting? Your bank will not ask you to confirm information via email. So if you get an email from something that appears to be a bank, that you may do some business with, and they say, could you confirm and respond to this email with your any type of identifiers. The bank is not going to do that. So don't give it to them. Don't give them any information. They should already have that on file, and they shouldn't be asking you to confirm anything, because there's nothing good can come of that. So don't respond to that. Don't click on attachments either for an unknown source. Don't do that either, because that compromises, because there's also a lot of viruses that get into the system, and they try to collect information. The primary target, in addition to credit card information, is also Social Security, name, address, and Social Security
number.
So please,
How many times you hear the last four? Just give me the last four of your social.
Don't do it.
They don't even have to have my whole
twice.
Social Security number.
That's
All they need is the last four, and they're going to get.
That's right. And there's been some really big compromises, like the IRS. There's been lots of folks whose information was compromised, and fraudulent tax returns were filed. There's been information, one of the federal government, actually regulators who remain nameless, that we were involved with, their database and their employees, federal government employees, all their information was compromised. So you have to be, it happens, and if anybody, particularly bank regulators who are coming in and identifying our systems to make sure they're safe and secure, had a compromise, you gotta say, okay, how about you guys go look at your own stuff, because really it starts with, from within. So it's just a very, very widespread issue and a challenge.
So it starts with I have 2 password schemas. And they're weird words that are not my name, my mother's name. It has nothing to do with reality.
Yes, that's good.
And then I've had to go through and deal with American Express doesn't let you use dollar signs. The special characters.
Yes.
So it seems like I come up with a weird word, a number, and then a symbol. And as I've gone through a dozen different security systems, I come up with symbols that, like hash mark, nobody uses, so you can use it.
Yeah.
Percentage sign, nobody uses it.
Yeah.
Ampersand. Try and use exclamation point. It says, no, we use that for something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what I think I've found is I don't want to write anything down.
Yeah.
God forbid you write it down and then somebody gets their hands on it, they got the keys to the kingdom.
Oh, absolutely. Our tech folks at the bank, they really take a hard line with that, writing down your passwords. Don't ever write down your passwords.
But you got to pick something that
you can remember, though, right? What's that password again?
Well, but that's it. And I mean, you see people using things like peekaboo. Well, actually, peekaboo 1 hash mark is not a bad little password. Because where in your life is somebody going to say peekaboo? Something weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then I just vary the 2 at the end.
Yeah.
So that for my financial stuff, I have a password.
Yeah.
And it's rare that, my bank account, my stock account, things like that. But then for everything else, I have almost the same word, but a different suffix.
It's a great idea.
And then you never have to write it down.
Yeah, and you can remember the password. We have so many passwords at the bank that change all the time for different systems. So you really have to pay attention and we use all kinds of fancy things to make sure that no one can compromise, can get your password. But it's really a big issue. And if you do have a compromise, listen to what your provider asks you to do. I know it's a pain and it's an inconvenience when someone shuts your credit card down and you try to go use it. It's a pain in the neck. But it's for your own safety and for your own security. And if there's even a hint of a breach, right away, folks are aggressive in terms of shutting it down.
You think about it, you come up with your password, you come up with a schema, and then, okay, I got a dozen different accounts I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. The minute the bank says it's time, and they don't let you do the 1, 2, 3, 4 and come around, then I go through and I change them all to the new one.
Yep.
Which my darling bride and sainted ungrateful offspring immediately register complaints because they've remembered, peekaboo 1, 2 or 1.
What's happening?
And all of a sudden it's like, no, we're now at peekaboo 2 something else.
Yeah.
Why did you have to change them all? Because I'll never remember which of the 12. So once I change one, I methodically go through and I just keep a list and I change everything.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
a
at
good
least
idea.
I don't
Yeah.
have to worry.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. And as things continue to be automated and technology continues to be an important part of everyone's lives, the risk and the level of compromise continues to rise. So you really have to be careful.
And you really can't protect yourself.
You can. I mean,
I mean-
there's certain things that you can do, but like
You go,
shredders and
you go
stuff
online,
like that. Yeah.
you make a purchase.
Yeah.
I just bought 2 new shirts from Paul Frederick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have just broadcast my account number, my expiration date, and that
Correct.
super secret decoder ring number
On
on the back.
the actual card, yeah.
You
All
know.
at the same time.
all in one blast. And you sit there and say,
That's right.
somebody could pick that off.
Absolutely. No question about that. Absolutely.
Now, they rang up $600 worth of iTunes on me and $200 or $300 worth of stuff.
Mhm.
It was annoying that my card was cut off,
Yeah.
but I didn't pay any of it.
Yes.
Who pays for that?
The credit card company has to credit your, that's why the credit card companies want to shut off your card as quickly as possible, because they're liable, so they have to give you that money back. Because you say, listen, that was a fraudulent charge, that wasn't me, and they have to give it back to you right away. So that's why they shut it off, because they don't want the card to run up, because they could be out that money.
They could be out all the way to your credit limit
Absolutely.
before you blink.
And the way things get transmitted so quickly now, almost instantaneously, they could be up to your credit card limit. I don't want to say what your limit is, because
No.
I know you could buy like a condo with it, but.
Because of my daughters.
So your the condo could be purchased, and then there's nothing but trouble.
Yes, God bless her when she tried to put the credit card down to buy the car. And it's like, they won't do it.
Can you do that even? I don't know.
No, because they don't want to
big a
pay the fee.
purchase, yeah.
They'd let her put the deposit, but she was like, but I have room. Just, it's on my dad's credit card. I want that car. It's like, oh, God, help me. I'm getting too old for
That's
this.
not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah, but luckily they said no, which just meant then she wrote a check from my account. So either way, I'm stuck.
Either way, you're going to pay. Either way, you're
But
going to
now, so the first thing is come up with a password schema that you can remember,
Remember,
so
not
you
like
never write it down.
That's correct, yeah.
Then have an idea that, okay, I know they're going to make me change it sometime this year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what am I going to change it to that still follows, in my mind, a logical pattern
Yes.
that isn't things like, I mean, I'm still amazed when I hear that password was somebody's password.
Gee, that's a new one.
Yeah.
People actually do that. That's
Not anymore. A lot
Not
of
a
the
good idea.
security systems say no.
yeah, yeah.
You know, or
They
I
take
need
that
a
out,
6-digit, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, yeah, that's a bad idea
Seriously,
too,
come
yeah.
on.
Last 4 digits of your social is also a bad idea.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about, oh my God.
Yes. that's
Why not just use your social security number? Give it away to
I
everybody.
know that's a bad idea too. So if you can avoid that, that would be a good
So
idea.
the first thing is have a schema that you can follow.
Yes.
And then you realize that when you get an alert, first of all, the bank isn't going to ask you for any information they should already have.
That's correct.
But I would say I wouldn't answer the phone. I'd say, thank you very much. Or the people that keep calling me, telling me my computer is calling them. And, oh yeah, I get this is Microsoft Service Department. Your computer is sending out messages that it has a virus. Again, all you got to do is let them in,
Yeah. That's
and
what I
they'll fix
mean.
it.
Don't do it.
Yeah, I've learned that the best thing I know how to do is I say, okay, let me walk upstairs and open the computer. Hold.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
I'll annoy them because they're trying to make so many calls to find, you know, it's like when you see the thing about $25 million from Nigeria, somebody, if they send
Yeah.
out 1 million of those
Yeah.
and they get one
That's what I
person,
mean. It's a function of the numbers. So the more that they send, the more likely they are to have an opportunity to get someone's bank account information.
so to
So
me
you
it's
have to
simple.
be
I have a
careful.
credit card or I know the bank number.
Mhm.
If I get a note about there could be fraudulent activity, I'm calling direct.
Absolutely. The number in the back of the card should be the number that
You
you
know,
reach out
or
to.
you know, on the website, there's
The
Home
website
National,
as well.
there's the number,
That's right.
and then I can feel safe.
That's right.
You know that I'm calling into your bank,
Absolutely. Like a live person.
a live person. If it's Milford, you end up knowing most of them. So at least
It's probably
But-
true.
realistically, they won't ask for inappropriate information.
That's correct.
So that'd be your first hint when somebody says, give me your social security number. It's like, ruh-roh. I don't think I'm talking to the right person.
That's correct. That's correct. You really have to be careful. In the meantime, you have to pay attention to your statement and make sure that there's nothing on there that's not yours. Just pay attention and be patient. Because when you call your credit card company and they have to reissue your card, it may take a bit to get it, but it's worth it.
Yeah, but they're pretty good
So-
because when the 2 or 3 times now, that
Yeah.
one time it was just a pool. Some retailer got hacked, and one of my darling offspring had bought something at this retailer. So our number was in the pool.
Yeah.
It wasn't even something we did. They weren't even sure we were hacked, but
Well,
we were,
everyone's
as a
cautious.
risk.
Yes, absolutely. Well, there was a Target one. There was a
That was
big Target
bingo.
one. Oh yeah, that was a huge problem, and that was someone getting into the actual network and the transact, and they weren't sure what was compromised and what wasn't.
And that's when we got the call
So,
saying we're
yeah.
cutting your card off.
Yes.
But they had me a new card in 2 days.
Because it was a big initiative, so it wasn't like a onesie twosie. It was a giant, thousands and thousands of cards. Home Depot, Lowe's had some of those same problems, and what they did is shut the card off right away, reissue, so that there's no risk of. Because keep in mind, those companies have to give the money back. So if so they want to cut the card access as quickly as possible, also to minimize their fraud losses.
And they
as
don't
well.
want to stop you from giving them money.
Absolutely, that's the other issue.
So, I mean,
You to
okay, I
continue
can
to
understand
shop.
that with Citibank.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because, you always hear that they make all their money on interest. But that's not
Not
absolutely
true.
correct.
There's some fees, and things clear quickly now, but there are some fees in the network that, like a Citigroup and all of us would still receive as well, processing fees, transaction fees. So even though you think you have an interest-free line, which you do, they still make money, because otherwise they wouldn't give you.
Why would they do it?
They wouldn't do it. So they get fees and income from the transaction and the transmission of money through the system. So that's where the
But I'm
Citigroup's would
paying
get
for
it
it
as
because
well.
if they're charging 2.9% or something to the vendor,
Mm-hmm.
the vendor's got to bill that in to their pricing.
That's correct. So you ultimately are
I'm
paying it
ultimately,
as
but
well. Yeah.
I'm comfortable that I get 25 days of almost free use of the money,
Yes. Yes.
as long as I pay it.
Well, that's another maybe a topic for another show in terms of credit counseling, because because that's definitely prudent in terms of not buying something that you can't pay for.
Yeah, at that point, I remember Nancy Reagan's
So-
line, just say no.
Yeah, right. Just
So
say
I'm telling
no.
my kids, say no, no credit.
Yeah,
Wait till
that's
you have
right.
the money, then
That's
buy it.
right. Credit is really, really important.
Well, I mean, my Citi card has got some type of usury rate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never cared because I pay mine off every month.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's something
It
ridiculous.
is
God help me.
ridiculous. It is ridiculous, and it's really, really high. And a lot of times people get into that credit card problem with a balance, and you can't get out of it.
Well,
and they're in it for many, many years.
Kristen,
so
if
you
I
have to be
can't make
careful.
the payment this month, so now my credit card, my understanding is, stops being a credit card. So if I didn't make the payment, I did the minimum, every time I charge now, the interest starts from the day I charge.
That's correct.
So I'm not even
Most
getting my
times, yeah.
25 days free anymore.
That's correct. Yeah.
So now it's
Correct.
an instant loan.
Yes.
And if I couldn't pay it this month, why would I think I can pay last month's plus next
Plus
month's?
yes, yeah. And that's the other thing too. When you look at when we look at credit card use, for example, as talking about identity theft and fraud prevention, because I know we talked about the fraud prevention piece. In the fraud prevention, the objective with the fraud prevention is to not have a problem with identity theft. Get it at the front end so no one takes your identity and your information and runs rogue with that, because that's a problem which ultimately would impact your credit. And preserving your credit is important. So even though you may have fraudulent transactions, it may get away from you and you may not be on top of it because too much time passes, you're busy. By the time you get your credit card, you're like, well, wait a minute, these weren't my
Right.
charges. Or you get your credit card and you put it aside thinking you don't have a balance, and you do,
And
and
surprise.
you don't pay it. Then you have to, it takes you some time at the back end to clean that up off your credit report. Consumers have a lot of protection in terms of credit reports and proper reporting, and things can't be reported that are not yours, but it's a process, and you have to pay attention, and sometimes if you don't pay attention timely, it could get away from you very easily, and it
Well,
takes
you
a while to
mentioned
clean
that
up.
one of the safe things to do is, if I'm operating out of the norm, So, you know, you don't have to be like when I went, they were very nervous because they saw charges in France, in Russia, you know, back, I came through England. So you see all these countries.
Yeah. And they don't say Al is having fun
Right.
in his travels.
It's just the
They're
antenna
like,
go
someone
up.
stole the card.
They're worried. But even if I'm just driving to Pennsylvania, and what I seem to remember is hotels and gas seem to be two of the buzzwords that trigger a lot of alarms.
Yes, absolutely, no question.
So normally, you know, I commute in Milford, so I'm not really staying at any hotels or chewing up a lot of gas. But if I want to drive out to the Grand Canyon,
Yes.
it would behoove me to call my credit card company and say, look, the week of August 20th,
Yes.
I'm going to be doing this trip.
Yes.
Expect to see a lot of strain, because you never see them on my card.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of charges from the Square States and other places.
Yeah.
And it seems like if I do that, I don't get cut off as often.
Yes, that's definitely makes sense. And the fraud prevention software, the way it's crafted, is that if you have any transactions that appear odd based on your history,
Right.
that would trigger a problem. So in other words, if you're in mostly Massachusetts and then you are going cross country, that's going to trigger some fraud prevention software somewhere along the way, and you don't want to be traveling and not have access to the credit that you need, nor do you want to be traveling and have a problem. So you want to make sure that you're proactive in terms of notice, particularly internationally.
And it's
you know.
even domestically, it's not just me. Because one time they cut off our cards, and I picked up the phone, and I found out as I'm paying a restaurant bill. Talk about being embarrassed.
Your
It's
card
like-
they shut your card off?
Yes.
Oh, gee.
They didn't kill it. They put a fraud warning on it.
Yes.
So now I'm looking at this poor little girl who's saying, okay, you're a deadbeat. And I called and I said, excuse me, could you tell me what's going on? They said, well, we've noticed within an hour or two, we've had a charge in Massachusetts, a charge in New York, and one in D.C. And I said, yes. That would be my ungrateful offspring number one.
Because you
In
couldn't
New York?
possibly be in those
Well, that was,
places
it
at the same
triggered
time.
it because
Yes.
they saw
Geography, yeah.
3 legitimate, they weren't big charges, but it was restaurant and gas,
Yeah. Yep.
but
yep.
3 different states
Yeah.
within an hour of each other.
Yeah.
And that's when we learned to say, okay, kids, if you're going to go travel and using my credit card, you make the phone call and let them know so that they don't panic.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. The problem may be using your credit card, Al.
No, I asked my daughter if it was normal at her age to still
I'm
be
just
using my
saying.
credit card, and she assured me it was very normal. So I said, okay, if it's normal, then.
Yeah, right?
But, you know, again, planning. If you know you're going on
No
vacation,
question.
if you know you're going to do something not that's weird or out of the ordinary, but out of the ordinary for you.
Absolutely. And pay attention. Take responsibility for your own financial transactions. Take responsibility to preserve and protect your identity, because once it's compromised, it's really bad things happen.
No, it's just the
so
annoying
it's
part of, I
just
mean,
bad things
even with something like the Target thing where they cancel my card, I've got to call 11 different companies and tell them, hey, my new credit card number is.
Yeah, yeah.
And sit on the phone, and they're very nice, but it takes them
It's a
time
pain,
to go
yeah.
through and change it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a pain in the neck. But it continues to be a challenge. Certain countries, internationally, there's more hacking activities that happen than others. So in some cases, the fraud prevention software will completely not allow transactions in that country because something's happening, and there's a lot of compromises coming from a certain area of the world. And everything is so global now, and everyone's traveling, so you just have to be, if that's a place you're going to go, you definitely need to tell your credit card
Now,
provider.
does the card make a big difference, the type of card? Because we got to Paris.
I think so, yeah.
It was
shouldn't.
embarrassing. We get off the plane, and I'm going to buy a croissant and a cup of coffee. I hadn't changed money yet, so I plugged my card in, and your card doesn't work. It's supposed to have a chip.
Oh, yeah. The chip technology is
I
awesome.
don't have a card with a chip. Then I got excited because my American Excuse card
Yeah.
had a chip,
Has a chip? Yeah.
but it had the wrong kind of chip.
Oh, okay.
Somehow it's a chip, but you still have to sign. And I'm sitting there saying, okay, between the two cards,
Yeah.
I can't buy a croissant.
So you went hungry.
Yeah, no, luckily
right?
they took dollars.
Oh, okay.
Of course, the funniest thing was my CFO was traveling with me, you
Yeah.
know, the financial fellow of our company, and he goes to use his, guess what? He had the same problems. So does this chip, what is the magic behind to chip or not to chip?
Well, the chip is the objective of the chip is to prevent fraud, and so it's more secure. And I'm not sure why the actual physical technology is more secure, but the chip is more secure. And as you see, more places are now requiring it, and that's why, because it's more it's the physical card that is more secure.
I have a card with a chip.
Mhm.
Do I get to pick my password or my PIN number on the?
You do. It's the same. Well, it would be the PIN number that you would use. In some cases, you have to, with the chip and with putting your PIN in, it's more secure. Make sure that the transaction is more secure. So that's all for security purposes. It's taken a while for some folks to adapt to adopt because a lot of the hardware needs to be replaced.
Well, I mean,
as
all
well,
of a sudden
point
I'm a
sale.
small business owner and you're going to
Yeah.
hit me with a few $100
For
upgrade.
the equipment, the actual equipment, yeah. But internationally, American Express used to be more globally accepted. Now Visa, MasterCard, Discover, everybody's pretty.
The
you know,
Discover
everybody's
I
global.
found was getting
Less-
better,
Yeah,
but the Visa,
Yeah.
seems like everywhere I've ever
Yeah.
gone,
yeah.
they'll accept my Visa.
Now American Express, sometimes less folks accept American Express because
'Cause
the
of the fees?
transaction fees are higher. As the merchant, the transaction fees are higher. Not a lot. It used to be a lot more expensive, but it's not as much. But it's still a little bit higher. And if you're
Yeah, but it
running
used
tight,
to be almost twice as much,
it used
wasn't
to
it?
be. It used to be.
Like
Now it's only a tiny
7%
bit.
versus,
Yeah.
and if you're
Yeah.
trying to do groceries, I mean, I can see in a restaurant or a high-end jewelry store,
Yeah,
well, the margins are high enough
yeah, yeah.
that 2-3%, they're going to grow.
Yeah.
But in a grocery store where you're living on razor-thin margins,
Well, that's the thing. That's why a lot of folks say, you know, we prefer MasterCard, Visa. I mean, debit card's great because they get the cash out of your account right away.
yeah, I never understood the debit card thing.
You don't use your debit. My debit card has a
I don't even have one.
chip on it too. And you don't?
No,
No kidding.
because I'd rather use the credit card because I get 25 days of free use.
Yeah.
I think the discipline is you got to pay it.
Absolutely.
You know, the debit card is safer because you can only take out what you take.
That's right. It's all what's in your
But
account.
the minute
yeah.
I use it, you get my money. Well, you don't, but the merchant gets my money instantly.
Yeah, instantly. Yeah, instantly. And the days of the float, I don't know if you remember this, Al. We used to write a check and it wouldn't clear your account for 2 or 3 days. That we're well past that. I mean, things clear your account pretty much instantaneously. So when you
But
use
some banks still hold it.
on the bank side, yes.
On the
that's
bank-
a way that's a way for the bank to make money.
Make money.
Actually, is to hold your money. Yeah.
Because
They
I
shouldn't
learned,
be doing that, by the way.
I learned when I would take a check, and if it was, you know, a few $1,000s from wherever it's coming from, well, we hold it for 5 days. So on day 2, I'd call,
Yeah.
and I'd say, excuse me, I'm just curious. The money has cleared my account.
Because it clears really fast.
Yeah, the electrons
Oh,
have
yeah,
flown
absolutely.
from my stock account to your bank. Why are you holding it besides making money on me?
Yeah.
And well, once you talk to a manager, I'll release it. I say, I hope so, because you have my money.
Well, that's interesting because, and really, the disclosures at the bank, we don't do that, by the way. Just want to make that clear. We're talking about other folks, perhaps. But that really has to be disclosed. And it's up, you know, if the bank, there may be some circumstances that the check looks strange, it's a big
Well-
check. I mean, they want to send it for collection, there's an international component. But normal course of business, it really should be same or next day availability.
Well, I could see on a
Period.
brand new account or something.
There's a period of time, there's a waiting period on a brand new account, yes. But
Can't
if you-
blame 'em.
Yeah, but if you have your, because there's collection risk.
I have the
you know,
same
so-
checking account since 1989. Something tells me there's a pattern there.
Absolutely, and I'm sure they know where to find you.
Oh, yes. So
With
now-
relative ease, I would suspect.
So we're dealing with not being silly and giving out information.
Correct.
Having passwords that you can memorize and be able to change in a logical order. A lot of times I see people don't think about what they throw in their trash.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Even the cybersecurity is such a big challenge, but paper theft is still a big issue, and you have to pay attention. Don't throw any of your statements in the trash without destroying them. A shredder would be best.
Well, and it's funny because people, I ripped it in half.
Doesn't, it's not enough. It's
I can
woefully
still,
inadequate.
you know, if you think of Jimmy Carter days where they took out a shredder and pieced it together.
Yes.
Never mind taking 2 pieces of paper and matching them.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And really, the cybersecurity is it's a hot button, and it's a hot topic now. But you have to pay attention to the paper as well, because that is still an issue, and people going through your trash, or if something happens and your trash collector takes your stuff and drops it somewhere, loses
Well, even
something.
in a landfill, you know, you sit there and say, why would anybody come to my house and go through my trash? Like you said, little fish, not worth their effort.
Yes.
But I can imagine you give the trash, it goes into a landfill, if it's not incinerated, that papers can blow around.
There's all your information.
Just-
Account numbers, credit card numbers, name, address, social security, date of birth, all the information that someone who knows what to do with it in terms of perpetuating fraud can do so.
And
based on that
protecting it,
information.
Social Security, I think, would be the number to
Yes.
protect above all else,
Yes, absolutely. That's correct.
right?
Yeah.
Date of birth,
Yes.
mother's maiden name.
Yeah.
Although it seems now that it used to be every security word, you know, you have your 3 words was your mother's maiden
I
name.
know. Yeah.
You know, so I misspelled my mother's maiden name. I said, if,
Consistently?
always.
Oh, yeah. The same way. So the
Same
misspelling is
way,
the
no
same
matter what, I would
Okay.
flip saying, okay, if somebody got a hold of it, I know what Simones is,
Yeah.
but I'm going to misspell it. So now you got to figure out how I
How you
misspelled it.
misspelled it. It's a good
You know,
idea. It's a good idea.
And, you know, the same thing with a pet's name.
Yes.
God help you, don't use Spot, Rover. You know, I mean, have some.
Particularly if that's your pet's name, right?
But, you know, you start
Which is a
hearing
different issue, I guess.
the shredders now at Staples it seem pretty cheap. I mean, I would recommend, if at all possible, even you get a little $30 one that you only do 3 pages at a time.
Absolutely.
You know, things like bank statements and
Yes.
all.
Shred your statements. If
Shred
you're
'em.
using online banking, you don't have to get a statement. So you can shut that statement generation off, which would be, I would
haven't
advise you
gotten a real
to do.
statement on my credit cards. And it was funny because at first when I got the notices, okay, Kristen's trying to save postage. Which, yeah, probably, you know, when
That's
you,
probably part of it,
you
right?
think of the old days where you got your bank statement, it was that thick with checks. I mean, it's got to cost a lot. But then I thought about it and I said, no, the beauty of this is I can save it on my hard drive.
That's right.
I don't have to worry that the physical checks
Yep.
or the statements have to be destroyed.
And we can always research it if you need to.
No, yeah, I send a
If you
little
wanna go
note.
back, yeah.
You know, when I pull up check number this, it comes up blank. Within a day, I get a little note that was made to, you know, McGillicuddy and Sons, and okay, cool.
Yeah, yep. And then usually it doesn't usually everything's fine, and usually you don't even have to do, but you can go back if you need
Well,
to.
yeah, but you're
So-
nice. Bank of America is happy to do it at $3 a check.
Yeah, we don't.
I
know.
learned that on my daughter's account.
Oh, did you? They
Yeah,
charge for
because she
stuff,
went out
yeah.
of Milford because at Holy Cross they had all the Bank of America ATMs.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, all of a sudden I got to find a check. No problem. For $3, we'll do the. Well, if I call into Milford, I get
know.
it for free.
For free, I know. That's, you know, the benefit of the community banks in terms of fees. I mean, everyone's looking for ways to make money, obviously.
Well, I mean,
and
you're
that's
going to
one of
have
them.
those unreasonable employees that want to eat every day and have clothes.
I know, right?
You know, and
All
have
the
a home.
basics, I know.
So you've got to make some money.
Yes, yes. We are a for-profit enterprise, no question.
Yeah, but your employees are definitely for profit. They need to feed their family.
Yeah, yeah.
So it can't be everything for me.
Well, that's the thing, and you really have to be, the banks have struggled with, you know, what we call margin compression in the business, and that's why you see a deposit, I don't mean to get off point, but you see deposit rates really low, and loan rates are very low. And, you know, the Federal Reserve, they set interest rates, and because of the economy, and there's a lot of different factors that play in an election year, those rates have stayed low for a long time. And so the banks have to continue to manage expenses prudently, but also find ways to charge fees in the event that
Well,
it's
again, when you look at
competitive,
the
yeah.
interest rate
Yeah.
that you're charging for mortgages and all.
I know,
I mean,
I know.
how can you
It's
make
I know.
any money on that?
Silly, I know. And it's funny because people complain about deposit rates. Gee, my deposit rates are so low. I'm like, I know, but the borrowing rates are really low too. And who knows? Forecasting is another challenge because it's so uncertain. Everything is just so uncertain. It's hard to forecast rates. I mean, there was supposed to be 4 Fed rates this year. There have been none.
None.
Last year there were supposed to be, I think, 3 or 4. There was 1 in December, and the Fed said, gee, we probably shouldn't have done that. It was premature. Now they're talking, next year what's going to happen then, and who knows? It's going to happen
you
in
think
November,
about it.
so
I don't pay anything for my checking account.
yes, free checking is definitely.
But you
something we
sit
should
there and
have.
say, okay, there's no such thing as free. Somebody is paying for that.
Yes, yes,
Because you have computers and employees and
that's right.
people supporting my free check.
Yes. Well, on the bank side, we use your deposits for the stuff. So we're able to take as a group, invest that money to make income, to pay the bank overhead. So that's kind of what the objective is. And also, non-interest bearing deposits are helpful because that's usually your primary product, but you'll have other stuff as well. So if you have your primary checking account with Milford National, more than likely you'll if you need a mortgage, you'll come to the bank.
Right.
You'll be able to make,
You just
do
do
other
everything because
products.
it's,
An average is 6 to 8 products per customer.
really?
Yeah, at the bank, yep.
Well, that says a lot about the service they get.
We have great service. I mean, I must say, particularly as a community bank.
If
we
they're
have
not
great
happy
service.
with you,
Yeah.
you're not going to get the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th product.
Well, that's the thing. And we have multi-generational, our customer base is multi-generational. And I've
wow.
been with the bank almost 10 years. And when I first started with the bank, people said, gee, we're 4th generation. My great-grandfather banked with you. I said, yeah, okay. And it was true. It was true. The history is amazing, and people were very, very lucky, and a lot of us worked very hard on the
So
backs
now
of
you
many.
brought up an ATM.
Yeah.
And you hear all these, when I go to the ATM, like, cover my, what is realistic? Just put your hand and type it in?
Be aware. Be aware. I mean, someone shouldn't be looking over your shoulder at your PIN code. And if you're in a vestibule, stay in a vestibule and don't let a stranger in the vestibule with you. Do your transaction, leave. I mean, everything is secure and there's cameras, but you just don't want to put yourself at risk when you think about safety things. A lot of the ATMs, a lot of ATMs we have are drive-up ATMs.
I was going to say,
you're
you just
okay.
drive up, and if somebody really came, hit drive, I'm gone.
And just go, yeah. And really, the drive-up wasn't for security purposes. The drive-up ATMs, because we actually moved our branch in Mendon. We moved from an ATM in the vestibule to a drive-up ATM. Because that's what customers want. You have a family in the car, you don't want to get out. People are lazy sometimes.
It's
so.
just, it's raining, it's
I know,
cold.
that's what I mean, yeah.
You know,
I'll just go through,
I am old, I am lazy, if I can just put down the window,
Yeah.
Make it so, give me my money.
And it's more secure.
And it's more secure.
'Cause nobody's around, yeah.
But, you hear things like, if the keypad feels loose, stop.
Absolutely, no question about it.
Because I don't know of any ATM you're running that you don't maintain.
That's correct. That's correct. And really, you maintain a standard that you want to make sure that there's a lot of compliance requirements. The ATM is not excluded from that. So yes, equipment that's shoddy, that doesn't look right, don't use it. Just don't even put yourself at risk in terms of any type of compromise. There was a big initiative to dispel there were skimmers, what they call skimmers, and your information was extracted.
All they did is
from
put
the
a little
skimmer.
pad across with a little microchip to memorize.
Yes. That would create the looseness, though, because it doesn't fit properly in the equipment. So if it's loose, you have the
And that's why I
potential
say,
to
if I get
skimmer.
on something, if I ever felt a loose keypad,
Yes.
I'm done.
Yeah. Be careful.
Yeah.
It's very popular internationally, too. So if you use your credit card at a restaurant, you're high in terms of compromises. You're more likely to have a skimming problem somewhere internationally as opposed to domestically.
Well, and the other thing is, for younger people, like you say, if you see somebody hanging around, there's a reason there's a panic button.
Be aware. I do that at the bank. If I'm working late or I'm leaving or coming, my comings and going. We're a very, very secure facility, but you always keep aware and look around and make sure your surroundings is someone not, leering around the ATM particularly.
Yeah, you just never know. It's not worth taking a chance.
Absolutely, and it's very, very uncertain times. And there are things that just are unprecedented, and you would just never expect things to be where they are today even. Just very crazy times.
And that's,
so.
when you look at what's going on,
Yeah.
and they say, I don't understand how somebody, well, wait a minute. If you could understand
Yeah.
why somebody would cause harm to a child, your mind would have to be as sick as theirs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because how can you even imagine
Yeah.
an innocent little kid and these people walking in and just mowing them down with automatic weapons?
It's really unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. And you just know, you don't know when it's going to stop and you know when it's going to end. So you just have to be aware. And when you look at identity theft and fraud prevention, cybersecurity, any of those things, and physical security as well, you just have to be aware and protect yourself, protect your family, just be aware.
So, being aware, if you have a credit card, I would strongly say get electronic access. And every couple weeks, if not every week, it takes 2 seconds just to check and go down.
Yes, absolutely.
Because a couple times I've sent a note, is this ours? And I get this lengthy rationalization on why that new purse was vital to national security.
It was a needed purchase, not
God
right?
help us.
Not an extra one.
Yes.
Just, it was necessary.
If I ever meet this guy Louis Vuitton, I'm going to hurt him. I'm just going to hurt him with the purses. God, it's the fall purse. We have to have.
Of course, change of seasons, yes.
Oh,
Shoes to match as well, right?
Oh, don't have shoes. I'm an old man. I buy a pair of Allen Edmonds. I pay through the nose, but they last me for years.
Oh, yeah.
The other guy on my hit list is this Jimmy Choo Choo guy.
It's many
This
men
Jimmy
in the
Choo,
world,
I
right?
really hate him. But, you look at, be aware, check
Yes.
your statement,
Yes,
and it only takes but 30 seconds to go online
that's correct.
and just do a quick scan and say, wait a minute, I didn't go there.
That's right. And call right away. Either call or make online contact with your credit card provider right away as soon as you notice it. Don't let it sit. Don't say, I'll do it later.
Yeah.
Do it right away, immediately. Then that way you continue
And
to
always
take
use the
responsibility.
phone number on your card or on your statement.
Absolutely.
If I want to get a hold of somebody at the home, I'm going to call the main number.
That's correct.
If somebody calls me and says, call this number, no thank you.
Yeah, that's correct.
I will take the chance that I have to wait 5 extra seconds when I call in and, oh, you want Maria? Yeah, I'll transfer you.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Anything else you would think to warn people that they should be doing for?
Yeah, pay attention. We see elder fraud is a big challenge and a big problem. So if there's someone you care for, or someone that you know about, a neighbor, a family member, a friend, make sure they're okay, because we see folks that these get-rich-quick schemes are geared towards folks that are on limited income, and you want to make sure that.
Well, a lot of them too are lonely.
Yeah.
When you have an elder who's living alone, and somebody calls, they're just so happy to talk to somebody.
Yeah, to talk. Yep.
They're just at risk.
Yeah.
And, to me, I would say your mother, your neighbor,
Yes.
tell them, if anything like this ever happens, call me
Call
first.
me, absolutely. Particularly elder folks that don't really have other family members that are watching out for them. It's really important to kind of take that extra step and say, is everything okay? Is everything, because we see a lot of that. We see that older folks giving out their account numbers and their personal information to people that call and try to befriend them. So just be
Sounded
aware.
like such a nice boy on the phone.
I know, and I just gave them all my account information. And we've seen that at the bank. People come in and we help them and we fix it and we clean it up for them. But it's really it's uncertain, and sometimes there's losses because of information that's provided. And you just want to make sure when you look at fraud, you look at fraud prevention. We have on our website, milfordnational.com, there's a link to some of the federal government resources. If you think your identity has been compromised, if something's happening that looks a little funky and different than it should be, and you're not sure what to do, it tells you what it gives
But
you
again,
advises
I think
you.
the biggest thing is, if I have a question, it behooves me to stop, call the institution, be it the bank, be it the credit card issuer,
Yes.
call that number and say, okay, this is happening. Because I've had some of these fishing expeditions, I say, this really looks good. And when I call the credit card company, they're saying, not us.
That's right. That's right.
So I just hit the forward button because they usually have fraud departments and they want to see that.
Oh, absolutely, no question about it.
And then they put
Report
their
it.
dogs, they let loose
They
the dogs
do.
of credit war and
Well,
go after them.
Well, that's the thing, and fraud like that's a federal crime. I mean, there's a financial crime investigation arm of the federal government that would investigate that, and a lot of times it's more widespread. So, for example, if your city card was compromised, I'm sure you're not the only one.
Right.
It's a bigger.
that's why they
yeah,
jump
it's on
on
a
it so
bigger
quick.
scale. Yes.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you
For
for
helping-
the invitation.
And thank you
So nice to
more,
see you.
more than anything for everything that your leadership has done for our community and our kids and our
Yeah.
elders.
Thank you, Al. Thank you very much.
Too many times it's easy to complain about what's not perfect,
Yeah, yeah,
and we forget
yeah.
that you do so much.
Thank you.
And as always, to our 6 loyal viewers, may God bless. May tomorrow be a better day than tonight. Good night. Thanks for watching.